So, first of all, thank you for being here. Thank you as a church. This is just for me. Chris will tell you his perspective on things and anything personally he would like to say. But I just personally want to say thank you. Thank you for a few things. First of all, thank you for the privilege of being able to be here and serve with you and be your pastor. I count that as one of the greatest honors in my life. And so thank you for that. Thank you for approving a missions line item in a budget, which is something we've not done before. And enabling us to be able to reach out and make these plans and take these trips and see these things and prepare for the future of being able to serve and get the gospel to places it hadn't been. And thank you for being here tonight and wanting to hear about it. Just for me, I really appreciate that. I want to share just in the beginning, I want to read a familiar passage, what I hope is a familiar passage from Romans chapter 10. And it starts with my favorite verse in the New Testament, Romans 10:13. Everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. Right? That's a beautiful truth. But the next two verses are so very important. Because after Paul proclaims, everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved, how then will they call on the one they haven't believed in? How can they believe in the one they hadn't heard of? And how can they hear without a preacher? And in this context, preacher doesn't mean preacher. It means Christian who shares the gospel. And then it says, and how can they preach unless they're sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. That little section, Romans 10:13 through 15, is just such a beautiful, dear passage of Scripture. Because it's not easy to go other places. It's certainly not easy to travel almost 5,000 miles into a difficult place. And as places in the world go, this one is not as difficult as some other places, but it's certainly not Wagner. And it's certainly not any place I've ever been in South Carolina. And so I just want to show you a few things, tell you a few things, and I'm going to try to mind my time here to give Chris plenty of time to share stuff. He's got a lot of information to share also. And for those who will watch this on the YouTube channel later, hopefully you can see the screen and us and hear everything. That's what we've got that strategically located for that purpose. So this right here, I'll just start out. I might step out of frame here for a minute just so I can share some things about what you'll see on the screen. This is on the wall in the airport on the island of Vitoria where we were for the whole week. This was our destination where we were concentrating all our time, where the particular church and pastor that we were working with was there, and the city in itself. So, Sarah, go ahead. This is a picture I took on the seat back in front of me on the plane when we were leaving Atlanta. 4,822 miles, 8 hours and 35 minutes until arrival. And that was about right. But it's a long way. And if you saw something I posted this morning before I left for church, I took another picture of the globe with a line drawn from Atlanta to Brazil that kind of showed that flight line of where we traveled. So this is after we got picked up at the airport, the pastor picked us up. And let me just tell you, if you don't have a smartphone that has Google Translate on it, you are missing out, because that thing is worth its weight in gold, because you can hit a button that says conversation, and you can select English and Portuguese, and you can talk into it and it'll translate into Portuguese. If they can talk into it, it'll translate into English. So it was lovely. It really helped us a ton in communicating with the people. This is driving toward the church. They even got a McDonald's. I saw, as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, I got to take a picture of that, because I never would have believed, everything we saw, I would not have believed it was a McDonald's. Now, we didn't eat there, because you'll see later why. But this was the hotel room, and I took a video that I sent to Darlene to show her where we were staying. Let me just say, all right, look at me. Look at Chris. This is not for big American folk, okay? You'll see later, there were maybe 1%, 2% of the people were anywhere close to our height or size. Everybody else over there was much smaller. And so we kind of felt like we were superhuman there for a while, walking through the street, people looking at, like, who are these people, So anyway, it's kind of interesting. So that's the little hotel room, and the wall is right there. So it's like maybe, 10 by 12? If that? Yeah. So it was pretty small. Now here's why I did this picture. Out of our hotel, this gives you a perspective. We opened up the shades on our hotel room, and standing in the same place, if you look to the right, that's what you see. If you look to the left, that's what you see from the same window. Literally, the hotel was on a street that was like a dividing line between here's some progress and some building and some commerce, and right behind us was nothing but a hill, nothing but slums. Like that, and it's just a whole hillside of just slums. And we heard from the pastor, from another man in the church, and from a couple of other people constantly all week. Drugs and violence are not uncommon. And that, we kept saying, well, we were 5 blocks from the church. We'll just walk to the church from the hotel. And it's like, okay, well, you sure? Well, yeah. Then, well, don't do it at night. Okay. So kind of gave us a different perspective of the community that they're located in. This is the front of the church. It says Igreja Batista, which means Church Baptist. They put the word order difference in Baptist Church. Now, this is one thing to look at the front of the church, but the next picture, I was standing there looking out. That's in front of the church. Iron bars and electric lines across the top, surrounding the whole building. And you couldn't pull in and park in the little church parking lot. The pastor had a remote to open the gate, and as soon as he pulled in, hit it, and closed the gate behind us. Now, I don't want you to think that it was like we were fearing for our lives the whole time, because we really weren't. But we kept being told, just be aware, be careful. And so this was looking out at the street where the church is located. This is a sign on the front that tells you when the services are. You got a prayer meeting at 7 o'clock on Wednesday. You have a Bread of Life project at 6 o'clock on Thursday. You have another prayer meeting at 7 o'clock. And then Domingo Sunday, they have Sunday school at 9, morning worship at 10, evening worship at 7. So that's kind of their schedule right there at the front door. This is a view of the sanctuary from standing up at the platform. And the seats, I was kind of jealous of the seats. The seats were kind of nice out there, real padded, which could be a bad thing. You might get too comfortable. But they had fans lining the walls on both sides to try to keep, the heat gets rough in there. So, go ahead. There we are standing. This is in the center aisle looking back up at the platform. The baptismal pool is up there at the top. There was a baptism Sunday morning, so that was kind of cool. The lady was in her 70s that got baptized on Sunday morning, which was a great blessing. And we had the Lord's Supper that morning, and we're sitting there on the front row, and Pastor Leandro leans over to me about halfway through the service when the baptism's happening, and he said through the interpreter, he said, "Hey, you want to preach the Lord's Supper?" And I was like, "When?" "In 5 minutes." Okay. So, so that's what we did. So the lady that got baptized, she got to receive the Lord's Supper for the first time in her life. So that was it was a really great moment. This is on the stage. Oh yeah. So they invited her up on the platform as a new believer who had just been baptized, first Lord's Supper. She came up on the platform to take the Lord's Supper with the pastor there, so it was really nice. This is one of the projects we visited on a place it's called Bella Vista, beautiful view, but they call the location Okra Hill. Now, I didn't see any okra plants the whole time I was there, but they called it Okra Hill. So this is the front of this mission. The pastor who is serving the mission has been there for 2 years. It's him and his wife and one of his sons, who you'll see a little bit later. This is why they call it Bella Vista. Walk through the back of the church building and look out the window, and that's what you see. So we kept seeing things. This is also across because it's technically an island. It's like I compared it to Hilton Head, because Hilton Head is an island technically, but it's right there. You know, it's kind of almost connected, but it's not. So technically, it's an island. This Vitoria is like that. It's a river that runs around it. So technically, there's a bridge, and it's technically an island, but it's really right just on the east coast. And so you see houses all over the city. Go ahead. This is to the other direction. Houses just everywhere. Those go back one. Those containers were everywhere, capturing rainwater, filtering it to use. Okay. Just pictures. This is from that mission, Bella Vista, and they serve children. Their whole focus is on children. They're trying to get the children out of the drug culture and away from the danger. In this very city, right in front of that church front that we showed you, where it says Igreja Batista Bella Vista, down that street, earlier this year, like I want to say when it was January, February, somewhere around there, some of these drug dealers and people walking down the street at night with their rifles, just firing on all directions. 2 children were killed right there near the church, just because they don't have any regard for human life. And the positive that's happening there is this pastor and his family have lived there now for 2 years, and because that bad element sees what he's doing and knows they're not there to start a fight with them or anything, they're just there to help the children. And so now he's gained, thankfully, a great deal of respect from that culture, and so they leave him alone. They let him do their ministry, which is fantastic. And just a little side note.
When we pulled up with Pastor Leandro,
yep.
And we pulled into, and this place was the same as the other church, gated with walls. They slide open the gate because it wasn't automatic. They slide open the gate, we pulled in, we got out, and they said, next time, make sure you let us know, because they took a picture of your car so we'd know who it was.
Yeah.
When we were coming up the hill, these drug people took a picture of the car as we were pulling into this area.
Yeah.
And they said, next time, always come with a known pastor.
Yeah, so they have a lookout. So any car that comes in and out of there, if they don't recognize it, they took a picture of us and the license plate. And so they were going to find out what our business was, and if it was not satisfactory in their minds, then, on the way out, there's the pastor of the mission, and then there's a church that supports that mission who has a pastor, and that pastor shows up. So we're all there walking around. You'll see him in a moment. He said, when we leave, you stay right behind me. And so our cars were together, so we could be seen with him and be associated with him. And sure enough, halfway down the hill, he stops. He gets out and talks to this guy that's just sitting on a little stool by the edge of the road. Yeah, and so he says something to him, and the next thing you know, that guy just disappears, and he turns around and gives us a thumbs up, and we go. So apparently they made that connection and said, and the pastor that we were riding with told us to roll the windows down. Like, well, why we got to roll the windows down? And he said, no pow, pow, pow. I'm like, okay, windows going down, no problem. Because we couldn't travel with any kind of weapons of any sort. I couldn't even take a pocket knife. So I was feeling kind of ill prepared. And But as soon as he said that, I will do whatever we need to do. No gunshots. So we made it out of there, no problem, no incident. Go ahead. This is where that happened.
That's over here.
Yeah, see the fella right there? So that's the pastor in that car, and that fella down the hill there, he stopped there and spoke, and then we're good to go. But that's exiting the mission. Alright, here we go. So now this is one of the largest people we saw in the whole trip. That is the pastor's son. He's only 21 years old. Gilmay Jr. But he speaks very good English, so he helped us a lot. And,
but he had never had a conversation in English before we met him.
Right. He learned English. He kind of taught himself English, and then he talked 100 miles a minute because he had never talked to anybody before that spoke English. So he was so thrilled to be able to have a conversation with what he called native. He wanted to speak to the natives, which was us. So because we speak English, so that was a treat for him. And you see, there's his father right down here on the right side with the gray-haired glasses, and the shorter man right beside him is the pastor of the church. So those two are pastors, and there's Gilmay Jr. there, and the man with his hands on his hips with his back to the camera is Pastor Leandro. And so you see us up here walking down the street. It was kind of like we were our own gang walking through the street, you know. But they told us that we were like, nobody comes and visits because of the drug culture. And so it's just the children who are there that they try to minister to. But nobody just shows up, which was why it was so odd. But they said that we were like celebrities because nobody's ever there, much less from another country. And so they were very thankful for our visit to them and how we could partner. Right up here, we were in this lady's home. If you see the shorter lady in the blue shirt says Viver, that's the Life Project, and one of her daughters right beside her, she has 3 daughters that she sends to this ministry, and they help and teach and minister to the children. But she volunteers with them. She volunteers with them, and so she wanted us to come visit in her home. And this is where you start to learn about the culture. She told us, and Gilmay was translating, when you ask the children, if you could have a dream come true, and just a gift like you just would never believe, like if you could have a wish granted, what would it be? And you know, in our culture, the children would, I want an iPad, or I want a laptop computer, or I want a new phone. You know what these children ask for? I want a bed to sleep in. That's my own.
Shoes.
I want shoes.
I'll try a hamburger.
Yeah, I'd love to try a bite of a hamburger. Never had a hamburger before. Last year they brought every child in the ministry a hamburger. And the kids who were there who had younger siblings were cutting it up into little pieces so they could take some back to their brothers and sisters because they had never had it either. So that's the kind of culture that exists here. And they don't have anything. And you know what else they ask for? I just want a hug. Because mom and dad don't hug me. Their parents, if they just have one parent, or they don't show affection to their children. They just send them off to the ministry, and so they want somebody. And so every single child we met just ran up to us and just hugged us and didn't want to let go. And so this was the first moment beyond just what we saw, at least for me. I don't know if for Chris it was the same for you. This was the first moment where things really got put in perspective, because we sit here and we're eating cake and drinking coffee, and they're wondering if they might have a pair of shoes. You know, it's a different world. It's a different level of desire of what you see as important. And that kind of was a culture shock for us to really open our eyes to some things. These children over there, they'd love to have not sleep in a bed with 4 other children, or have their own pair of shoes, or try a hamburger, you know, or have a hug, you know, stuff that we just see as normal.
And Christiana's house, the house we were in,
Yeah.
what you see of it is almost, that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, she got a very small, probably not even a 6x6 kitchen.
The 2 or 3 rooms that we saw could have probably all fit in that little kitchen right there. That's her whole house. And divided up into 3 little spaces. And it was, yeah. That Vitoria project, it's one project with many different locations, and this was another location we visited. It stands for, can you guess what it stands for? Anybody? Baptist Church of Mount Sinai. So that's the second one. And this is where we actually got to see a lot of kids and interact with a lot of kids. Now let me just put this in perspective. This is a big area where they had to play games. This is the morning group. They have a morning group and an afternoon group. 45 kids in the morning, 65 kids in the afternoon. 110 different kids that are coming there. And I will tell you what, when we pulled up, there was probably 20 of them lined up at the door waiting. Somebody come and unlock this door. We're ready to be here.
Shirts on,
Had their shirts on,
straight line.
Yeah, just ready to go. They couldn't wait to be in there. So we played here, you know, when you join hands, I don't know why, I must have took a picture. I was in that group right there in the back. You hold hands, you put a hula hoop over, and you got to try to get it over you all the way around the circle. So we're playing that game, and Chris cheated, and
We were just betting.
yeah, well, that group won though. But anyway, so that's kind of the game area, and again, very secure, locking, sliding door there outside. This is across the street in the church building. They have little rooms there. She's teaching these kids sign language and teaching them songs and different things. They have music, they have sign language, they have a thing called adventure. They feed them while they're there. And here's another thing. The ministry, the first one we went to, the same project, different location. How much money do you think it would cost to do all this, all that they do for a month? Anybody got a guess?
About $1 million.
No, not $1 million. Their budget every month is 1,500 reais, which is the Brazilian currency. You know how much that is? Less than $300. $300 would run that ministry for a month. Back up. This was also a view, I think, from outside. Yeah. Or no, that was Bella Vista. Yeah, that was the first. Okay. So here's when I'm preaching the Lord's Supper. The fellow in the middle is a college student who knows English very well. He was translated. Pastor Leandro on the left, and that's kind of just a picture of the church. Go ahead. Oh, back up. See the guy in the yellow shirt, and the lady to his left, our right. She was the one who just got baptized, and so that was her first Lord's Supper. This is Wednesday evening. Chris shared his testimony with the church, and so he was being translated there, and made an unbelievable impact on the church there. All of them. I think they had the youth in there also. But so that was after we had changed into our soccer jerseys to upset the pastor. I'll tell you that story in just a minute. Go ahead. Okay, and so then Tuesday night, pastor asked me to teach. There's a seminary that meets on the campus of the church, and he asked me to teach his class for him that night in New Testament theology. And I was like, absolutely, I'd love to. And I said, what are you talking about? what's the subject matter for tonight? And I was thinking, well, he said, well, we usually pick up a book in the New Testament and then just talk about it, summarize it, and then talk about how it fits into the larger scheme of the New Testament. I thought, perfect, I can do that.
I'll give you an easy one.
Yeah, he said, I'll give you an easy one. Tonight we're talking about Revelation. Yeah, because that's so easy. Everybody, there's nothing controversial at all in there. So that's the seminary class. And that guy in the red shirt is a pastor. And then our pastor, Leandro, and then you see Gilman Jr., he came especially just to translate for me. So that was nice. All right, so here we go. Here's the story. We show up, and there's a bunch of soccer teams. That's their thing, right? Brazilian soccer. They love it. There's probably 20-some different teams. Well, the pastor, that's the pastor's wife. The pastor had these black and white jerseys. Like he had like 35 different jerseys from this one team. And he had a real strong connection with this one team. It's called Atletico. And he just loves them. He played for the junior varsity level, 10 years ago. So he really loves this team. His sister at one time was dating one of the players on the team. So he got some legit jerseys from real players on the team. So he just loves it, lives and breathes for that team, right?
It's one of the first things
he told us. Because he was in one of the jerseys when he picked us up from the airport. So his wife got this look on her face like, she said, and we questioned, and he said, well, she doesn't like that team. She likes Cruzeiro. That's her favorite team. So Wednesday afternoon, we persuaded one of the church members to take us over to the shopping mall where they had an Adidas store, which sponsors this team. So we bought these soccer jerseys for the wife's team instead of the pastor's team, and we stuck them in our bag and showed up at church Wednesday night, dressed in a shirt like this. And then right before church started, where Chris was going to be the one speaking, we ran off to the bathroom and changed our shirts and put these on and came out, and another church member videoed the pastor and his reaction to us walking out. And he was so sad because he saw I thought he was going to cry. He was so upset that we would wear those things in church. He thought it was sacrilegious because we were wearing, the wrong team. But then back up one, and you see his wife is just she loves it. She thought it was hilarious. So anyway, that's the story behind the soccer jerseys. Now, let's talk about something real serious. Our men's ministry needs a project about how to build one of these little barbecue pits with the rotisseries built in it. They call it churrasco, which is their version of barbecue, but they use barbecue as a verb. So they're not like eating barbecue, they're barbecuing. That's how they say it. There's half a dozen rotisseries, chicken wings, steak, pork chop, roast beef, you name it, all on this long skewers, and just sitting on this open fire, just constantly just doing like this. And whenever they get about done on that smoked sausage over there, they get over there and slice it off. You ever seen a Brazilian steakhouse? Well, everyone in the United States, every Brazilian steakhouse in the United States is trying to duplicate this. But this is the real deal.
And this was just at somebody's house.
This is just somebody's house. This isn't even a restaurant. This is just somebody's downstairs garage where they have one of these. And so, go ahead. There's the chicken wings. Next one. Sarah, thank you. Put your phone down. This is like steak smothered in butter and garlic and it's just. So that's that.
No, no trouble eating there.
No trouble. And guess what? You can drink the water.
Yeah.
Huge blessing. Because when I went to Peru, you could not drink the water or you'd be sick. But you can drink the water.
The biggest trouble eating there is the fact that they don't stop eating.
Right. So every day, we would eat a little breakfast in the hotel. We'd go to the church. And 2 hours later, y'all ready to eat?
First lunch.
First lunch. Oh, yeah. And so, all right, well, let's go eat. So we'd eat. Then 2:30, 3 o'clock. Y'all ready to eat? No, we just ate lunch. And then come in there, they have all stuff spread out over here and coffee. And then again, in the evening, 6 o'clock, maybe 7, if it was a church night, after church, where you want to go eat. So it's like we were eating constantly. And the restaurant that is right across the street diagonally from the church is called Allegrici, which is they have a 3-row pit of fire and meat. And it's like a dozen or more of these little these 2-foot-long skewers filled with meat, and you just point, and they'll pull it off and slice it off on your plate. You point to that one, slice it, and they won't. And you don't pay by the person. You take your plate, go up to the register, set it on a scale, and whatever it weighs, that's what you pay. And so that plate on the right, which has a little potato and a couple little bread with meat in it, and all that, like 4 different kinds of meat. That whole plate was like $8.
Alright, so we went there twice.
Yeah.
So the first time,
That was my plate on the left on the first time we went. The next day,
we got stuff off the bar, and then we go back, and Mike said, I've got a different plan this time.
Yeah.
Straight for the meat, nothing but meat.
I don't know why I ever stopped at the buffet on the first time. That was a mistake on my part, because I didn't see that barbecue pit at the back. So the second time, I just went straight to just give me all that meat, you know. So wonderful food. There's a sign, Allegrici, behind us there, right on that street across from the church. All right, now, this is what you think about when you see the view of Brazil. This was our last day. We flew out Thursday, had to be at the airport at 4:30 on Thursday afternoon. So this was about 2 o'clock on Thursday, and they took us to this beach called Barra do Jucu. That's the name of it. You can look it up, Barradojucu. You look it up. Sarah already looked it up. She found all kinds of pictures on the internet. It's beautiful. So we drive up and walk out, and this is what you see. These next few pictures, just spend about 4 or 5 seconds on each one. These are pictures I took walking up this trail around this beach. And just gorgeous. Mountains, ocean, just beautiful. Now what, this is a video. This is a 360-degree view from this point we're standing on. There's a cross up on the hill there. You can't really see it, but yet barely up on the top of the hill. This is where the river meets the ocean. And mountains in the distance, beach. Go ahead. This is many people from the church. The young man on the right holding the child, he led the music in the church service. That's Tomas. That's his wife right there. And then another guy who was in the music part, his wife is right there. Then this couple, and that girl is their daughter, and that's one of the girls who's engaged to another guy who played in the musical group. Of course, the pastor wearing his soccer jersey. After we wore ours, he had to wear his the next day just to kind of have the last word. This is in front of that sign in the airport that I showed you at the very beginning. And this is that same group on that same day. Now, here's what's so interesting about this. Wednesday night, we had church. Then after church, they do this every Wednesday night. Pick a different person's house, and like 30 people go over there, and they just left church, but they go and have church after church. And so we leave church and go to this person's house and bring a guitar, and they want me to play some songs. Another guy plays some songs. We sang. I'm singing in English, but because it's a song everybody knows, we sang "What a Beautiful Name." And I'm playing and singing in English. They're singing in Portuguese. We're all singing together, same song, different languages. Then they have food, they have Bible study, which I found out, I didn't know till we got there, but Flavio, who's one of the guys there, he said,
It's the guy on the bottom left.
yeah, Flavio's on the bottom left. And so he said, after the music, he said, okay, Pastor Mike. Yeah? So I was supposed to teach the Bible study. So I found it out like a second before we had Bible study. So flipped to Ephesians chapter 2, and we studied verses 1 through 10. But this is like the whole group in their house. And see the lady to my right, the black shirt and glasses, that's her home. And they were someone who came to the airport. But all these people, they leave church and then go have church. It was so neat, the fellowship and the hospitality. And let me tell you another thing. I'm cutting your time short. I'm sorry. I'm about done.
It's okay. I'll be able to just
Okay.
add in.
We didn't buy a meal. In 7 days, we didn't buy a meal because they wanted to do for us. Let me take you to eat, or let me come to my house and eat, or just, it's like, we didn't have to do anything. The pastor drove us everywhere we had to go. Thank the Lord, because I was...
Or Max. You left Max.
Yeah, Max. Oh, yeah, Max. That's true. Max is a military policeman, played guitar at the church. And I rode with him to lunch after church on Sunday. First thing he did, this was one of the best highlights of the trip. First thing he did when I went to get in his car after church on Sunday was he's standing on the other side, and I'm getting in the other front passenger side, and he reaches behind him like this and pulls out a pistol and sets it on the middle of the car. I'm like, I'm in the right car. And then he said, don't worry. And he pulls out his badge. He's a policeman. And so that was a good thing. But they wanted to, okay, I had to put that in there.
This is Mike.
This is Mike. Their dog's name was Mike. So Tuesday night, we go over to this home and having that big meal. And I walk in and they say, come meet Mike. I'm like, okay, I'm thinking it's gonna be another guy, and it's a dog. So Mike says hello.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Okay. Yeah, no, that's the last one. I thought I had another video in there, don't I? I guess not.
Was it not a bit? I'm not going to talk as much as him.
Yeah.
And I don't have as many videos or pictures because he shared a lot of it. But what happened? While we're waiting, that picture of me at the Grand Canyon. If you've never been, it's really amazing. You should go. Alright. So, let me go back. Like I said, Mike's got a lot of these. Mike's got a lot of these on his. This was him giving the exact same picture. You know, we just end up taking pictures and sharing them. You can go to the next one, Sarah. Just click it, yeah. So this was the first place we went to eat, which was right on the ocean too, and they have a dish called gecko, and it's like a fish stew. And Max is the guy very far back, and his girlfriend. He's the guy that I said his Brazilian John Wick. On his phone, he's got a bunch of pictures with his guns, doing military police stuff. He was a pretty cool guy. The different food that they had, everything was good. Alright, so then we're going to go, since Mike already showed some of the pictures of Bola Vista, go ahead and click that one there. So this is in that building, and you can just scroll through each one of those pictures. So this is where the children I go to. Scroll down a little further. Right there. Click on that one. So you saw the buildings, but then just the amount of trash, and there's stuff from drugs, syringes, things kind of everywhere. Next picture, Sarah. You can see they have little kind of small farm areas. When I say small, like, you know, a quarter of the size of this room where they're trying to grow food. People that are trying to grow food. And this is the classroom they have downstairs in the first place that Mike showed, Bola Vista. So, you know, these conditions, there's rust, the floor is falling apart. Next picture is a picture of the floor where they tried to do some concrete work. These are, you know, 6 to 12-year-old kids is their age range. And they don't allow 5 and under to be there. And after 12, they don't come back usually. Not because they don't let them, it's because they've been drawn into the same kind of situation that the adults are in. And that's what Vitoria is trying to do. They're trying to break that cycle. And that's what we want to do, is try to help break that cycle where these kids get to 13 years old and they're going to either sell drugs, in with the gang that's there running things, and they just don't have anybody in their life that shows them what's right. And this is the kind of conditions they are living in every day. When they talk about splitting a hamburger, I mean, think about our kids. How many of them would think about at 9 years old, well, I'm going to cut up a hamburger so I can take some back to my 5-year-old brother because he's never had hamburger either. You know, it's just a different mindset that the children and the adults have there. So Jill May spent most of his time talking to me. He was just excited to talk. Yeah. And every time you walk by, every child that wasn't anywhere around would run up and hug him. And he was talking about everything that he does. So he is volunteering to do all of this stuff just because he's a good person. He goes to college. He's going to college to be a chemist. He volunteers to help teach them. They asked if they would do a choir. He's not a singer, never been trained to sing, but he takes these kids and sings with them. So one of the first times they've ever left, they went to a Baptist convention area, and all these kids were able to actually leave, and that was the first time most of them had left this area. And it's just amazing how the people there are trying to do things, but you know, they're living off of nothing, and it's, you know, 5 of them. Across the road from the church is a small little hardware store this guy runs, and I'm talking, the hardware store is like the size of the kitchen over there. So when it's small, it's tiny. He has, where'd you go, Sarah?
Sorry.
Oh, you're playing it. Okay. You're good. So he helps donate some stuff to the church, and there's 1 or 2 places there, around there. But outside of that, if they wanted to go to the supermarket to buy something, it was 8 kilometers. So none of these kids are going 8 kilometers to go to the store. So they're just living off of whatever they can get. And very few of them had shoes. Maybe a handful that we saw. When we say shoes, they're not talking about, you know, sneakers. They're talking about a pair of flip-flops. Yeah. When they say shoes, they mean flip-flops. Because that's what pretty much all of them had on. All right, the next photo. This is where we went into her house and we prayed with them. And give us stuff. And it's very humbling when you go somewhere like this and you get there, and the first thing they do is, what can we get for you? You don't have anything. What are you going to get for me? And they're trying to bring you food. They're trying to bring you drink. They're trying to give you anything they have because they're just that kind of people around there. They're just generally good people. They're just in a really bad situation that continues to perpetuate itself and draw those people into bad situations. All right, so then we go to the other Vitoria project. Now this is almost a completely different story from the first one. The kids are in a, they don't have hardly any good situation, but here they actually have really nice facilities for the entire thing. But they have 3 volunteers. That is, and then 1 person that is paid because that's all they can afford to do. The other 3 people volunteered for 105 children. 3 volunteers. So the children, like you said, they come in the morning from 9 to 12:30, and then the next crew comes in at 12:30 to 3, or was it 4? It was like 4 o'clock. They get like 3.5 hours away from their home. And while the church and the facilities there were really nice, when we pulled up, the first thing we saw as we were pulling up was this woman that, was obviously probably on drugs, you could tell, and there were piles of trash. So imagine after we finished homecoming and there's bags of trash. Every 30 feet there were bags of trash like that. And this lady's digging through the trash to find food and any kind of stuff she can reuse to sell. And that's the kind of parents that these kids have. They're not, loving, caring parents. They're not there to help them. They're looking for more drugs. They're looking, and that whole area was just like that. And this was the shining point of that whole area, was where they taught. The woman, Patricia, that's teaching there is the one paid person. Everybody else volunteered, and that's what they said. We would do more with the children, but there's nobody to do anything.
Does they have to work?
Yeah, they have to work. Everybody is trying to make enough money to live there. And their money, talking about the money, as we were getting ready to leave, we passed by a brand new Nissan Frontier, 4-door, 4-wheel drive, basically looked loaded, lifted up. And that's the biggest vehicle you can get there, is like a Nissan Frontier. Everything else is really tiny. And you look and it's 40,000 reais, which if you do the conversion to our dollars is about $8,300 for a brand new vehicle. But for them, that is unfathomable. They wouldn't be able to spend that kind of money on a vehicle. The pastor drove maybe like a 2001, it was late 90s, early 2000s. Toyota station wagon that one of the members of the church had given and said, hey, just pay me when you can. And that's what I'd like to talk about the pastor is, he is a lawyer, but he does not do like prosecution. He is a defense lawyer, and he fits that into his life being a pastor. So while we were there, he spent maybe 3 or 4 hours one day and then 5 hours another day for an entire 5-day period. So he fit his career into his relationship with God. And that's things that, we miss so many times. We try to fit God in. And a lot of these people, they're just fitting their life around God. Like I said, this is the family that we went to for the meal. What we have, chicken pie. It's like a chicken casserole.
Kind of like chicken salad sandwich made into a casserole.
Yeah, chicken salad sandwich made into a casserole. It was very good. So the lady in the middle there, every day at the church, she was the one preparing this stuff, and she wouldn't let us do anything. She almost waited on his hand and foot.
And she's got bad knees too.
Yeah.
In the back, she can't. Like she came to the airport to see us all, but she couldn't go upstairs to where we went towards security because her legs, wouldn't allow her to, but she was there.
We'd get there and she'd, cafe, which is coffee. She'd get Mike coffee, bring him a big old carafe of coffee that, they drink this much, and Mike was, holding it up, chugging it out of the carafe, just about. And then, like I said, 11 o'clock, she's prepared this whole meal. And then everybody, Tomas, which is their music leader, he left his work to try and come over there so he could have lunch with us. Just a bunch of great people that are doing what they can to make things better in that area. Tomas, he's called the Pequeño Grande Hombre, which is the little big man. They all pick on him. And scroll to the next picture, Sarah. Of course, he's the one in the middle, so you can see why they call him the little man.
Little big man.
Little big man. He's very tiny. He may have weighed like 100 pounds.
Yeah.
I kind of did this and picked him up. So that's the other thing I want to talk about is their church is not very, very nice. I'll have Sarah scroll back up to look. It looks nice, and I told this to Lewis. When you look at the picture, it's a pretty decent size, and it's an okay church. Right here, you look, it's like, oh, look at all this stonework, and it looks nice. From here to there, it looks nice, and then you get a little closer, and it's like, wow, they have a lot of problems. So go down a little, Sarah. No, just scroll down on the side. Oh, too far. Where'd you go? Right there. Click on the roof. Right there. So this is their roof of this church. And it leaks, and there's many, many patches. They're trying to figure out how they're going to replace their roof. The building is a little over 100 years old. Was 120.
They celebrated their 96th anniversary in January.
96th anniversary. And they just don't have a whole lot of resources. The next picture up, number 7, Sarah, is their electrical, which it was odd that they even had 120 volt breakers there because they run all 220 through their all of their breakers, but for some reason they converted this to 120. And then where they've done the stonework, you can tell they tried to do their best. They just don't have resources. The carpet was you could tell it was very old, had been there for a long time. There were just a lot of things that they do without, just trying to make do. And when you go into their church, there is a spirit of just excitement and joy. They weren't like they talk about a black church band where they're the Black Wall church band, where they're smoke and stuff, but they've got 2 guitars, a drummer, and was that it?
3 voices.
And 3 singers. And they play music, and they just are in the spirit of the Lord. They are happy. Everybody in the church is happy. They are just thrilled to be there. And they typically are lined up outside the church before it starts until they open the gate. They've got one gate that they can unlock and slide over. And everybody's excited to be in the church. Everybody's happy to be there. And there's some things that we can learn from them as much as we can give to them. There's stuff that they've given to us. We talk about, greeting people when you come into the church, somebody you don't know. Having people that just go up and are excited to have a new person in church because that's how they were. They were excited to worship the Lord, and then they still had reverence when there was the preaching and speaking, but it was just different. You would have to see everything to know the conditions that they live in, the things that they deal with, and they're all just happy. So I gave my testimony on Wednesday, and I'd sent it to the young man that was translating. His name's Ronildo. R. All their R's make sounds. So it's Ronildo for us. And when I got done talking, he came up and hugged me. He was crying after he translated for me. I'd sent him my everything that I was going to say beforehand. And he just said, can I please just stay in contact with you because you've had a great impact on me, and that means a lot. It's a connection. That's what we're trying to do, is have that connection with the people there so that we can improve their lives. And I think to have that connection so they can make us realize things that we don't see right now. That's all I got to say about that.
So, let me just, without taking any more time, let me just summarize. They gave to us while we were there. Not monetarily so much, but they taught us a lot about being Christian, about giving and hospitality and fellowship and just their attitudes. The fact that people who have next to nothing are tripping over themselves trying to give to us. We came from a totally different circumstance where we're able to travel to them. What a blessing that is. And they're sitting there just doing everything they can to try to serve us, because that's their attitude. That's their heart attitude. They showed us a lot, taught us a lot, seeing the children in the communities, and I'll put it this way, the attitude and perspective doesn't match the circumstance. That's probably the best way I can explain it. When you see where they live and what they have, and more specifically what they don't have, and then look at their joy and their attitude and their perspective on life and Christianity, those two things don't add up. And that's a good thing. So while we are trying to determine, after all this information we've gathered, what's the best possible way, the most responsible way to try to be a blessing to them, they've already been a blessing to us. Just in a short period of time, the attitude and connection and the way we made such a quick connection, it was amazing. We've never met these people. The pastor picks us up at the airport. He texted me a picture of himself to show me what he was wearing, so I would know when we got out of the airport who to connect with, like to recognize. This is the person who's going to pick us up and drive us to the church, so we need to know what he looks like. And then communicating with Google Translate, trying to go back and forth, trying to communicate until we could find someone who was bilingual and could translate.
Which was about 4 people.
Right.
Because you had Amanda.
Yeah. There was about 3 or 4 people who spoke enough English to try to bridge that gap. Otherwise, we're just sitting there back and forth on a phone trying to understand one another. And even despite all that, it was almost an immediate connection on a much deeper level, because we shared the same Lord and the same Spirit. And so that got us through a lot of red tape as far as relating to one another, because we were already kind of on the same page spiritually, if that makes sense. So, having said all that and all this, the 2 main things I want to leave us with are these. One, we could tell you so much more, but it will never duplicate a personal experience. We can't possibly explain it enough or well enough or show you enough pictures or tell you enough stories to really get you to understand what's going on there. And so that's one thing. And the other thing, as far as future plans are concerned, Chris and I are trying very diligently to catalog and prioritize everything we've gathered, so we can say, all right, what's practical and what's most important, and how can we practically partner.
Yeah.
Because they're wanting to, they're kind of going through their minds, oh, how can we help you? What can we do for you? How can we, and so it's a mutual partnership. It's not, well, those people in the United States are gonna come down here and help us because
They're gonna fix everything.
yeah, we're gonna come fix it. That's not it at all. And the pastor understands this is not about, well, let's see if we can find a church in the United States that could send us a few dollars here and there to help us. They're not looking for that. We want to do that, but that's not what they're ultimately looking for. They're looking for a partnership, a mutually beneficial partnership, which is how it should be. So we're trying to sort through all the information we have to start making some plans to open up for next June. I believe that's kind of when I hypothetically thought through this based on everything else on the church calendar. Right now, hypothetically, and this is as tentative as it could possibly be, around June, the middle of June, like June 17th-ish, right around there, is when we have hypothetically planned for another trip next year, opened up to more people. And that depends on so many different variables and so many different plans and sorting through information and a lot of communication. But just so you'll know, that's kind of in the infant stages. That's kind of where things are right now. So it's 7:05. So does anybody have any questions that would benefit the whole group? And if anybody has any other specific questions, we can hang around after we're dismissed and you can.
There's lots of other pictures, videos.
Yeah, lots of other information, but
Yeah, stories. Yeah.
I'm actually just I'm surprised it's only 7:05. Honestly, with all the information we have. All right.
Up the plane tickets down there and back, put a roof on that building wall.
And see that's another thing we're thinking through. How could we, in a practical way, how could we do something like that? Because there's a lot of logistics,
The plane ticket cost $75 pair of flip-flops down there.
I mean, there's all kind of different
The
things
toys.
like that we're trying to, what would that look like? Because you're thinking exactly
At
like
the
we
very
were trying to
project,
figure out.
They were playing with hula hoops that were, they were all
Yeah.
broken. It looked
Yeah.
like trash,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah, things that we would see, oh, this is broken, we need to put this in the trash. That's what they're using on a daily basis. So there's lots of practical things we can do, and that's what we're kind of thinking through in the planning stages, trying to figure that out. And so, So the main thing we need, I believe, Chris, please help and chime in here. But moving forward, I think the best thing for us to do right away is Chris and I are sorting through this information, trying to get it into a prioritized format. But for you all, for the church as a whole, to pray about your own potential involvement on any level. Because remember, there are multiple ways to be on mission. Pray, give, go, or any combination of the three. We can all be praying for the people in Vitoria, the missions to the children, the churches, the pastors. We can all be praying for them immediately. But also, pray. I would encourage you to pray about maybe a Sunday school class, or individually, what can I contribute? Maybe if I have a few extra dollars, I can give an offering to for their benefit or something like that. Or does God want me to pray about going down there and being a part, physically being there and serving and helping?
And if you can, we've talked about it a little bit. We think probably a group of 10 to 12 people
Right.
would be ideal. More than that, just logistically, is probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
You and projects, like in the first Vitoria project, we like to do some construction style things, fix some things up. But we also want to have at least probably 2 to 3 people there to help with the children at that one. And then 3 or 4 people to help at the Vitoria project in the second place, because that's what they need. They need, you know, if we had 4 volunteers the whole day, we would probably be able to let those children for a week be there the entire day.
Right.
8 hours, you know, away from that, showing these children what a Christian is and what it does, and giving them some hope for the future.
Just lots to pray about, lots to think about, but lots of opportunity to serve and be a blessing and share the love of Jesus. So let me pray and we'll be dismissed, and then we'll end our video, and then if anybody has any other specific questions, please feel free, and we'll talk after that. So let's pray together. Father, we do thank you so much for your love. We thank you for your grace and mercy toward us. And we thank you for the great privilege and honor that you gave to Chris and myself to allow us the opportunity to travel down to Brazil and to be among the folks there in the city and to serve, and then also to be served. And I pray that you help us as a church, and all of us individually, help us to pray and to seek your will and see how we might be involved in serving others and taking the gospel to the ends of the earth. So we pray that you be glorified through this. We thank you for this gathering tonight. And we pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.